Next day, we are up for a visit to the Orsay Museum as we continue our art history tour in Paris. This is the great museum that houses the Impressionists. And they also have smaller exhibit areas devoted to the periods just before the Impressionists and just after the Impressionists. This is one of the top museums in the world, and they have many famous paintings such as Monet's Olympia.
For us, it doesn't seem like it's scandalous, but in those days, when they started to show things like this was, no, you can't do that.
There are many pleasures to be found in the museum, such as this small scale model of the center part of Paris and this view into the main atrium. And then Pete gets down to business and educates us in some of the finer points of art history and theory.
And there's a time with the Impressionists that they're starting to look at color theory. Okay, like Seurat was very much into color theory. And so if you notice that the body itself has a slight orangey pink tone to it. Hence, that's the complement of blue. Hence, that's why it's playing with each other a little bit, is they realize that if I use the complement, it will have what they call a visual vibration. Again, the Impressionists are very clear about the colors they're using and how well they can use it to create the optical effects that they want. Not using what we would associate necessarily natural colors, but they're seeing more colors, more intense colors. Example where a little square inch will have many, many different colors, but it creates, when you look at it optically, the right color. So again, within that sun, like Patricia was saying, the sun, it probably has, wide ranges of blues, purples, greens, and reds. But because you're looking at it and your eye optically mix it, it creates that color. You just can't get that color by just putting a piece of paint down.
Degas. Have you heard?
Yeah.
Probably. Degas made a statue with a real tutu of a young girl who used to belong to the official ballet of the Opera Garnier. He took a real tutu of her and he composed le collage.
Yeah,
the
collage.
Technique, that you use real material of the life and then you stick on the statue and you compose this sort of style using a real tutu.
He was not only known for his movement, but also for his study in space and in form, how the form fits within the space. Compositionally, if you look at those paintings, for example, as well as the sculptures, they take up the negative space is just as active and important than also the positive space. Positive space being the dancers themselves or the instructor. So look at for example, the room. That negative space in each of these rooms are highly important as part of the composition as well as the actual forms. And if you look at all these sculptural forms, they all take up just not a straight space, but the negative space, like in this girl with the hair, for example, the negative space helps create the whole circular feeling of that sculpture. So his is also a study not only of movement, which is very important, but also of body and form. How does it fit in within the space itself? That's an interesting one with the girl in the bath down there. That's actually a bath. They used to have a bath of a fairly large tub.
Now we are in the space specifically of Claude Monet.
Monet did a number of paintings of the same subject, like this cathedral in Rouen.
He did a series of haystacks, lots of them. And he also did it at different times of the year. He did them during wintertime, he did it during summertime. It was really interesting. And he was so obsessed with light and how light, what Dennis was talking about, the idea of how it impressions and what Rachel brought up, which is the whole concept of how we see things, that he would come out and he would have 4 or 5 canvases set up. And so what he would do is that he would sit up every day at this one station, paint for about 15 minutes, because then the light changed. So then what he'd do is he put that painting down, take the next canvas that he was working, and paint again, because the light would have changed. And then he will do that, change it again. He was trying to get the exact impression of the haystacks. Okay, so he would do that even in the middle of winter. Snow is coming down, he's painting away. That's how obsessed he was to trying to get the correctness of it. And interesting enough, the next day he would come out 15 minutes later because the sun shifts. He realizes that the sun was shifting in the sky, so he had to shift for his painting to get exactly the amount of right light. So talk about being obsessed. That's pretty obsessive. So those are one of my favorite paintings, just amazing.